I'm interested in how you see yourself. Like, do you see yourself as a revolutionary? What am I to think when I look at your images? They seem to be quite revolutionary to me. And are your images aimed at persuading people into your kind of world, or? I kind of think for people like yourself and possibly myself, I might say, I think the revolution has happened for us. And when I see images like that, I think maybe you're about persuading people into that world, inviting them in there or whatever.
Right. Well, I never see them as propaganda, because I'm never telling people what to do. I don't say join something. So I see them as a critique of all the shit that's going on in the world, and that to get people to think. I mean, it's about getting people to think. I think, to think critically, because most of the images we see every day are about just trying to get us to buy shit we don't need and we don't want, and everything's cleaned up. So I think it's about getting people to think critically, and and I've had some great emails from people who say, well, I saw your work when I was young and then I joined an amnesty group. It's not like, it's that sort of thing of getting people it opens things up for people, I think, hopefully, in a tiny way. I mean, I think, most of it is allied to movements that are actually doing something like Amnesty or Oxfam, and I like connecting it to groups that are actually out there doing it, Like, well, I'm sitting quite safely in my studio, mucking around with all this stuff. There are a lot of much more brave and people doing amazing things out there. So if they want an image that they can use for something, that that's great use of it, I think. Like that, doing that thing recently for Amnesty on Syria, I thought that was great to be able to make something that was about the voices of those people and do it for Amnesty.
Do you feel angry a lot? I think it's amazing to see how you go from the idea through to the making to the being out, testing it out there in a place, especially amongst bankers. But how, that kind of confrontation with those, that must be quite a difficult thing to do. And, I wonder what you learn from that, doing that.
I mean, it's not as difficult as people, I don't know, UK Uncut going out and taking over a Vodafone, isn't it, or whatever. I don't know, I think we all feel angry, don't we? When we do know exactly what's been going on in the financial crash. We know about it, and it seems this strange hiatus at the moment in this country about we know all about it, but we're not actually finding ways to get out there and act on it. And so I think we do. I think a lot of us do feel angry, but how do you express that? So in a way, I'm very lucky because I've got a medium to express it in. I can get some of it out. I think that's quite a nice bit. It's like when you meet Steve Bell. He's incredibly relaxed and laid back, because he gets it out every day in these fantastic cartoons.
Are you sort of sorry? There's this. There's like two different processes going on. It seems like they're quite clean.
Yeah.
Do you have assistants working with you on? Do you have assistants with that? Like is it digital? That's a lot of the images that you're putting together.
Yeah.
It's not all done by cutting out.
No, but all that work in Iraq is made with another artist, a younger artist. We've worked together. We call ourselves Kennard Phillips.
Right.
She's quite a nice website because she's put this amazing website together.
Right.
Whereas mine looks like it's in the 19th century. But so we collaborate on stuff, and when it works, it's great because it's like it's great for some of you if you work together on something, because in the end you don't know who's creating it. It creates a lot of energy, and I think for anything about political stuff as well, it's very good because you can then discuss ideas through making the work.
But do you have is there a dilemma that goes on between the quite clean,
Yeah, well, I've got
hands-on and
I'm not going into my terrible psychological problems, but one of them is, you know, I love painting and I love materiality of stuff, and but that work doesn't get out in the same way as the other things. I've always been split, but I'm so old now that I've just accepted it. There's no way of that materiality actually existing in any way other than in a gallery. I think galleries are amazing places in that sense. They're the place where it gives you time to look.
I was going to follow on from that, which I was going to say, is there a conflict between art and direct speaking? Because some of it kind of, you know, the stuff that's more ambiguous and stuff that's more enigmatic and the stuff that's really directly speaking.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that even some of the stuff that seems really directly speaking can be used for other stuff and all, like the Blair thing.
Yeah.
Which you don't think could ever be used for anything but Iraq, but
Yeah.
you know, I just wonder if there's sometimes a bit of a conflict in you between, you know, kind of the enigmatic, kind of the hands down the...
Yeah,
versus
totally.
the, I've got to say this because I've got to say this straight. And, you know.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's a total conflict.
Yeah.
Because in some ways I'd like to make work that isn't as direct, but then the other side of me wants to make work that connects in that way. As I say, I do find, but I think a lot of artists, they make, you know, the work comes out of conflict rather than this idea that it comes out of resolution. I think is, you know, some of my favourite painting is abstract expressionism, or favourite art, I suppose. So, but you don't do what you love in art. You know, you do what you have to do. I think it's the thing. You know, I think you can't always. You don't choose, in that sense, saying I really love Pollock and find a way to work that way. You come out of a certain time. I came out of a very sort of London time where politics, you know, 68. And it's a bit boring to say 68, but it was 68 that it came out of, you know, and it was that political time. And I think, going around talking to students, I think that students are much more aware now through what they're going through, you know, financially, with all the fees, shit, and, you know, all that thing. It's actually making people feel that they want to make work that's about their lives, and it's about more social issues. I mean, it is to do with how you see your relationship to society as well. I think the sort of work you make, but it's definitely a conflict. Yeah.
In your book, you've got a lot of windows that look like Mac windows that are open. You've got a lot of things that feel like they're very digital, like I'm viewing them on a screen. When you said yourself you're a very old school kind of cut and stick style of person, why did you choose to do that?
Well, I managed to get an ex-student of mine called, that's why I said assisted by Tarek Salhani on the front. Oh, you've got a copy? Wow, what have you bought one?
No, I got it from the library.
Oh right, that's great.
Yeah.
And he's amazing. He's a Lebanese guy, and he's 23. Well, we started when he was 22, and he'd been a student of mine at Barnshore. And he's a complete whiz on computers, and it means we could find images on the web and put them together and develop a more contemporary looking image, so that hopefully people your age would respond to it rather than the black and white photographic thing. But you think it actually looks digital?
Yeah,
that's interesting.
I thought it was photoshopped. I was telling everybody in my class that, Peter Kennard, he's a master of Photoshop. Look
Oh
how
right,
his
oh
stuff
cool.
is.
Yeah. No, I can just about send an email with an attachment on a good day. Yeah, no, it was working with Tarek, you know, and it's great. I mean, I can't usually afford it to him, but he was employed for a certain time to work on this book, and but he's also very politically involved as well. So it was a real collaborative thing in that sense. Yeah.
Okay.
Alright.
Go.
Yeah, and like for me, I think there's a real material engagement that seems quite sort of urgent about the work. I don't know,
Yeah.
but there's also a sense of kind of discontinuity and ruin in there somewhere. And I wondered
Yeah.
whether like the processes of making and that physical engagement with the stuff and the material of it kind of led you in that direction, or whether that's something that I'm just bringing to it.
What, the breaking it, the material breaking
that
up.
kind of like discontinuity that you get. That
Yeah.
seems to be part of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've always been, into the idea of ruins, I suppose, and breaking up
the
of
Benjamin
material.
thing sort of
Hmm?
brought that into mind. I think the Benjamin thing sort of brought that into mind.
Yeah,
as
because
well.
he was very
When
concerned
he
with
writes
about
ruins.
ruin. As I become more and more of a ruin, I get even more concerned. But I mean, but it's what Aidan was saying. I find a conflict because I love surfaces being distressed and broken and worked on, or paintings that are worked on. But and I started off painting, but it's very difficult to make sort of paintings, political paintings, because you look at it and you'll get much more concerned about the material than the subject. That's what I found, which is why a lot of feminist art. I mean, Tanya, we went to the Northern, what's it called? The
Northern Arts Prize.
Northern Arts, and what's her name? Harrison. I can't remember her first name, but she's an artist she's made a work about Greenham Common Protest, and it's very physical. It uses objects and materials, and it's quite powerful. And a lot of feminist artists in the 70s turned away, as they turned away from painting and started using less macho type things, and I suppose a lot of political people, as well. So I think that it came about at that period. I
Do you
think.
think there's something inherently political about kind of appropriation and montage, or or anti-political?
Well, I think it's not inherent, because most montage we see is done for Apple and Nike and all that. I mean, it's everywhere, montage. But it's a tool that allows you to be political if you start using it in a conflicting way. I mean, that's what I sort of believe. But I actually believe all art at the moment is pretty political, because we're living in such horrendous times. Just people actually expressing a voice in itself is an amazing thing now, I think. That's why I love doing workshops with kids and things, because that is a voice that they're expressing,
Katrina just was she's sorry she's got to leave, but can she buy a book before she goes?
Yeah. Thank you. So, shall I